I'm Aaron.
Hola, I'm Alex.
Mixing it up a little bit. We're two in the booth. Welcome into this week's pod. And we've got some fun stuff to discuss today. First topic of conversation. If you go to a ballpark, we're going to talk about some things that, could have you go viral. And then we're going to have a deeper discussion on the pending, perhaps foregone conclusion, work stoppage for Major League Baseball next season. There's been some moving over the last couple of weeks in terms of proposals traded back and forth, some political aligning, if you will, of one side versus the other. And who knows, we may need someone to step in and make a deal. So,
The
see
art
how
of the
things
deal
go.
maker himself.
That's right. We might need an executive order.
And
but
by that,
before
we
we
mean Vladimir Zelensky.
It's true. Before we get there, this episode of our podcast brought to you not by Diet Pepsi, although they could sponsor us. They sponsor soccer matches on the White House lawn. But, today, when I raise the question for our audience and for Alex and I to banter back and forth about and eventually get to some place in particular, if you were going to a Major League Baseball game and you could go viral for any thing while you're at the ballpark, viral, like someone records you doing this and it reaches over 1 million views, what would you want it to be? Would you want it to be how you're strutting from your seat to go get some food? Would you want it to be, like one Instagram user? Would you want it to be chirping at the visiting team's outfielders for how they return rental cars on empty, or mistake the Mouge Bouche for, something else, or, whatever, knock over kids' sandcastles when they go to the beach and then cry out, "You bum"? Or would you want it to be something else? Alex, any thoughts on if you were at the ballpark and you could do something that would go viral, what would it be?
Well, these are just things that are just popping around in my head. There's, I don't even, they're just coming to me in real time right now.
You're just spitballing.
If I were to, go viral for anything, maybe it would be like, I'd want to be like an 11-year-old kid out in the bleachers out in the bleacher section at Wrigley Field. And maybe I'd want to catch a home run ball and I'd want to throw it on a line from the bleachers all the way to home plate. And then it would get the attention of the front office at Wrigley Field, and somehow it would result in me being the youngest professional baseball player in history. And of course, I'm talking about the famed Henry Rowan Gardner from Rookie of the Year. That's the plot line of that movie. I think that would be quite the viral moment, and to live that out in real time would be real. Now, second to that. Also, I would think that maybe to be a young man who maybe was in tune with the spiritual realm, and say I was a fan of the Los Angeles Angels, maybe I could see angels helping the team win games, and somehow my special signal of waving my arms because there's an angel on the field helping would cause me to go viral, and it would get me not only it wouldn't necessarily give me a contract, but it would give me tickets behind the dugout or at the end of the dugout every game. That would be pretty cool to go viral that way. And
Are you just talking about plot lines of baseball movies at this point?
I'm sorry. Is that what we're talking about here? I think those would be very viral moments here.
So, we've all seen the shots in the middle of the games as we're watching baseball where they cut to certain fans that, that they're waving the foam fingers, or they got crazy costumes on or stuff like that. None of that stuff ever really goes viral, right? Like, there's the guy who caught the ball last year with one hand as he's holding his baby in the other. That kind of went viral. There's, of course, the classic throw the ball back on the field when the opposing team hits a home run.
Absolutely.
There's the two fans from New York who went viral for literally trying to take Mookie Betts' glove off of his hand in the middle of the World Series.
Yes.
But I think if I was going to go viral for something at a ballpark, it would be how I eat my ballpark hot dogs.
Okay. Enlighten the listeners, please.
I would, rather than eating them from one end to the other, I would eat them from the middle to the end. Just start in the middle, almost like a corn on the cob, and maybe catch the attention of a television camera and watch the views go north quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
The middle dogger, they could call me the middle dogger.
And America's going to want to see this.
Well,
is what you're thinking.
Sometimes viral moments are things America wants to see, and other times viral moments are things Americans are forced to see. And we'll see which one of those that is. But, could be want to see, more likely will be have to see. It'll be the thing that all the networks refuse to stop using.
I hear you there. That would be
the other thing that comes to my mind would be, sometimes you have the awkward interactions when they do like the kiss cam and like the in between innings. Be kind of interesting to like pre-plan something with my wife. We go to a game and like just do something nothing ridiculous, nothing inappropriate. Just stem your judgmental gaze from behind your darkened sunglasses. But either to like hold up a sign of like we're siblings or something like that. Something that would make us go viral in a good way.
Kind of like imagine a scenario where you're at a game and you're at a game and you're with a woman that's not your wife and the kiss cam comes up, and then imagine a scenario where you're on the kiss cam with the woman that's not your wife, and instead of trying to be caught on camera in the middle of an affair, you push the woman and she like falls out onto the field or something like that because you tried to get away from her.
Yeah.
Over the banister. Imagine a viral moment, kind of like that. And
falls
that
down
would be
to the lower bowl even.
Exactly. Like how crazy would that be? And so just all sorts of good stuff there.
Well, a number of things could be going viral in Major League Baseball stadiums right now, but one of them is currently going viral in Major League Baseball stadiums. It's a trend, a phenomenon, a fad, whatever you want to call it, sweeping baseball stadiums across the nation. And it has to do with tarps,
or the lack thereof,
or the absence of tarps.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're talking about rain delays? There's like an inordinate number of rain delays happening.
Grounds crews are losing their tarps, similar to the way that Pittsburghians were losing traffic cones at the beginning of the season.
Yes. Yeah, man. No, Tarps Off is quite the trend, and you've probably noticed it in a ballpark near you, and it's spreading like wildfire. You'll go to it's kind of like dog in the park night, only every night. And instead of dogs, they're young men, middle-aged men, older men, and they're taking sections by storm and they're derobing themselves
from the waist up. Let's just
from
be
the waist
careful.
up.
Yep.
They're
going
losing
shirtless.
their shirtless, skins, shirts versus skins, and skins are winning the day.
Unfortunately, it's not redskins. It's just straight up white skins.
It is. A lot of white guys doing this. And so,
not a good look, guys. Come on. We can do better. Is this what white privilege really looks like? Because I don't think this is a privilege.
So the origins of Tarps Off started in Busch Stadium of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oddly enough, the stadium where the home City Connect unis refer to the team as the Lou.
The Lou, yeah. And basically, you kind of try to do a deep dive, and originally, if you were just like to turn it on, you turn it on, you'd probably be like, oh, is this a protest? Is this something that's like, are they trying to get like ownership's attention?
Fantasy football, league gone wrong,
like a shame ritual, from a fantasy football league, like the loser of the year type thing.
Yep.
And you're like, no, it turns out it's a love letter to Major League Baseball fans trying to encourage people to increase the spirit in a stadium for a baseball game.
Ramp it up. And I think if I was reading it right, it was a college baseball team that was present
at Busch Stadium, and they're like, man, this atmosphere stinks. And we would love to bring a little bit of college baseball and the pageantry of college baseball and the energy uh, to Major League Baseball. And it's almost like in the spirit of the World Cup that's about to get going. Like we want World Cup level energy in one section of a Major League Baseball stadium. And it almost like it goes back to what you and I were talking about. Maybe this is a listener to this podcast, because we were like, man, the energy at the World Baseball Classic was on a level. And now we're actually getting to see it one section per stadium per night, where
One
guys
section and only one section.
are like, we want this to be the World Baseball Classic every single day. Yeah. Anyway, so I just think it's very interesting. Do you think the atmosphere needs help at Major League Baseball in general, or is this something that's like, you know what, we were doing just fine, we don't need Tarps Off?
The response to it has been very interesting too, because on the one hand, you have managers like Oliver Marmol who reached out to the team, invited them into the clubhouse, like the whole team went crazy over it. Then you have other sections of the country that are kind of approaching it with, what in the world is going on here? So there's like the distancing and like, and then there, and at some point you're like, okay, this is not going to end well, because for some reason it's acceptable for there to be a group of men who are going tarps off. But as soon as you throw a wrench in that, and let's say a bunch of feminists, just for an example, are like, hey, anything men can do, we can do too.
Yeah.
Tarps Off is going to go to a grinding halt real fast.
Why? Why do you think that would be the case?
Just because I think in our society there's just that like distinction between the two in terms of like, okay, we'll accept the, like, you go to a community swimming pool, there's tarps off all the time, right? Like guys are walking around swimming with their shirts off.
Absolutely.
In our society, we don't let that tarps off mentality apply across the board. And, I would argue that there are probably a number of those men who have taken their tarps off at baseball stadiums who should not be taking their tarps off. And, across the board, I wonder if the fad will fade naturally, or if in our cultural behavioral norms, there will be something that will bring it to a halt.
Yeah.
Which of those two will happen first? Will there be a tarps off phenomenon at Dodger Stadium and like, okay, yeah, we're not doing this anymore, not cool, and like it just kind of fizzes out? Or is there going to take an incident of like, someone gets tossed from a ball game because of it, because they took their shirt off, and they start protesting and getting on, and like, okay, we just need to ban tarps off from all Major League Baseball stadiums.
Yeah. We'll see how it plays out. I think right now on the crescendo, we're still on the upswing, because I don't think we've reached the apex yet, because it's still spreading to all Major League stadiums. And if anything, it appears like it's gaining energy.
Yeah, especially in underattended ballparks.
I mean, you have, even Busch Stadium, they've earmarked a section for the tarps off crowd. So like if you buy a ticket and you want to move to participate, you're free to move to like, hey, we want you here and we want you in this section, and they're kind of owning it. Meanwhile, like, and again, it's crazy. They're the best team in the American League and they can't sell tickets, but two things. One, did not know Tampa Bay was back playing at the Trop. Figured that out this week the hard way. Two, even the Trop had a section up in the upper deck or whatever of tarps off guys. And if you know anything about the Trop, nobody sits up there in the upper deck.
Nobody.
Not even in playoff games. And so it's very interesting. I'm very intrigued with where this is going to go, because again, it just seems like the momentum for it is building at the present. And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
And
the other thing to talk about that is in kind of relation to this crescendo of energy coming to ballparks is the reality that next year there might not be any energy in any ballpark with any ball players or ball teams.
no, not at all. Right. We are headed for a lockout, as they call it. A labor disputed lockout.
A strike, if you will.
Yeah. If you didn't know this, the MLB is not a right to work league. It is a union league.
Pro union.
So there's a collective bargaining agreement where the players who are unionized and the Players Association have to come to an agreement with the owners under the terms by which they're going to take the field. And so that is presently, it's usually like a, I don't know, 5-year, 4-year, 7-year, whatever agreement. And we're at the end of the existing labor agreement, and we're headed towards, or negotiations are ongoing. And it feels like we're headed towards a lockout. And
so what are for people who may be new to baseball or maybe don't understand the inner workings of it, there's a couple different strands to the CBA at play. So on the owner side, you have them arguing for lesser salaries, more money for them, I guess, general benefits to benefit all of baseball as a whole. Like,
yes,
the sport. You compare that against the Players Association representing all of the Major League Baseball players, and it seems like they have the same talking points every time it comes around.
Yes.
More guaranteed contracts, no salary cap.
Yes.
What do we mean when we're talking about a guaranteed contract? Just to make sure that listeners understand what that is.
A guaranteed contract is just basically, as far as I understand it, it's just they want their money, like the money that's on paper, like they want that, like they want that paid out through the life of the contract with no exceptions. And so they don't, no buyouts, clauses in the, like, it's guaranteed money. Like the number that's thrown out there is the number you get paid. So like it's a guaranteed contract.
And then the other piece with that is no salary cap. So salary caps can take on two forms. You can either have a cap for individual players. So like you can only make up to this much per season as a individual player.
Yes.
Or you can have a team cap. In other words, the team's total salary for all 25 men on the roster or 30 men on the roster or 40 men on the roster cannot exceed so much money, or else you have to pay what's called luxury tax. And this is not an unfamiliar concept because both football and basketball have salary caps in play. So you may hear news of an NFL player being cut to reduce the team's cap number, or because they had such a high cap number. In other words, their contract was so financially laden that it took a huge hit out of the team's salary cap and hindered them from being able to sign other players. Do you think, do you ever see Major League Baseball adopting a salary cap?
Yeah, I think it's coming next year, actually.
Yeah.
And so
why is that something that is good for baseball?
Because it's going to, well, so far what we've seen this in the other sports, in all the sports actually, whether it's hockey, NBA, NHL, there's more parity in those leagues. It's going to spread the wealth out throughout the league. And so you're going to have less concentrations of talent as far as, the Yankees in the 90s, the Dodgers today. Like it's gonna force teams to, the really talented players are going to have to find, homes elsewhere, or you're going to have teams that are going to be really, really top heavy, and you're going to have like a couple superstars on a team, because there's always like that's the argument right now, right? The argument is like, hey, what the Dodgers have going on is not healthy for baseball, and it's a detriment to the league as a whole. However, even with leagues that have salary caps, like you saw this with the trio, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh, when they went to the Miami Heat, like, they found kind of a way to get around the salary cap. It was like, hey, we're all going to like take like an agreed upon amount of money for the three of us, And then we're just going to supplement with just like whatever we can find to kind of build out the roster, and we're going to go and chase a title. So like it's not a foolproof system, but we have to like I think it's a the owners really want a with salary cap, and quite frankly what I think you find in all sports, eventually the owners get what the owners want. It's not so much like I think the players association thinks they have more cards in their deck than they actually have, and I think we're going to find out as we head towards a lockout that the players union is going to run out of negotiating chips, and that I think is made clear with the news that broke this week. The news that broke this week is the owners put out a proposal, and the proposal not only offered a salary cap, like you can't spend more than this, and it's somewhere in the neighborhood of what 300 and something odd $1 million a year. But what it also did is it established a salary floor, which would be pretty unique as far as salary caps go. I think it's the first league that would actually have an established floor saying that you must spend, above $174 million a year, which immediately you have like, I think 3, maybe 4 teams that are spending well below that. Like the Tampa Bay Rays, the Cleveland Guardians, the likes of them,
I think
Pirates are well below that. And so immediately you think like, oh, everybody on those teams is going to get a collective pay bump. We'll see. I don't know, but I just it's very interesting. And then the Players Association, they broke news yesterday, and they're like, we are just light years apart with with whatever the owners threw out there. And I'm like, man, if we're light years apart, and it seemed like for everything I initially when the news broke a few days ago that the owners put this proposal out there, some of the like talk radio personalities and sports, just kind of like reporters that were out there, they're like, whoa, okay, the owners are on board for a salary floor. Like that's a huge win. But if the players union is like, yeah, we're not even close right now, we could very well be headed for a long lockout next year.
So you've got some strong thoughts about the players union.
Yeah, I think the players union, I think they're ridiculous. I think they don't I get okay, the super simple answer is like the owners want to make money, the players want to make money. Bryce Harper and guys like him or whoever, Bryce Harper seems to be pretty vocal on behalf of the players union. Like he wants to make as much money for himself as he possibly can, which is fine. At the end of the day, it's a sport, and the sport has rules, and the rules, it's all about like trying to keep the competitive balance in play. It's not just a Wild West scenario where you, the individual, are free to just kind of go and like make as much money as you want because you're part of it's an entertainment brand. It's an entertainment league. And the reality is, and again, I take issue that ESPN had an article here, and it's like they describe it, regardless of some small market, low revenue team's ability to construct consistently winning franchises, Tampa Bay, Milwaukee, Cleveland. That's great. Yeah, they're winning. They're winning games. They're great regular season teams. These teams are not winning World Series. And they're not competitive for World Series. The Tampa Bay Rays made a World Series not too long ago. That was an exception to the rule. Milwaukee's not sniffing a World Series. Cleveland's not sniffing a World Series. And so, like, that's what we're talking about. Like, the likelihood that championships can be spread across the playing field. And I think, like, I just don't think the players get it. They sound tone deaf. And they sound tone deaf in particular when it's like average Joes in the Tarps Off crowd. Like, you're not getting much sympathy from me when it's like, man, I'm sorry, like we're going to cap like the $500 million salary that you're going to make, like to play baseball. Meanwhile, like I'm a fan of a team that's like getting just getting the thumb pressed on top of it because there's just no way that Kansas City, Minnesota, Milwaukee, is going to compete with the big dogs. And to your point as a Pittsburgh fan, I could have the best talent scouts in the world, and we can have just like the rotisserie of players coming through the doors, and then every 3 years they're on the way out because Pittsburgh can't pay them what they're going to make.
I mean, they're just rebuilding.
Always, just
I
a few
feel-
more days.
So two things to that. I hear what you're saying. I think historically, baseball has always been the way that you're describing in terms of there's always the feeder teams and then there's always the dominant teams.
Right.
Like, you look through the 40s, the 30s, there were several dominant teams and the rest were just feeders. You had the Yankees, you had the Dodgers, you had the Giants.
Yes.
You get to the 60s, 70s, you got the Orioles, you got the Pirates, you got the Yankees. But historically, the Yankees have always been a powerhouse.
Yes.
Historically, the Dodgers have always been a powerhouse. You're right about the Orioles and Pirates. Ownerships ebb and flow and things come and things go. The other thing, so I just point that out as like a, comparison of like, okay, historically though, there's precedent for this, like not so much parity, just dominance and a dynasty. Secondly, you see that pattern reflected in nature. Like every animal has a predator, and then you have apex predators, the predators who are at the top of the heap, and like the only predator they have is death or a human with a gun.
Yeah.
You look at a lion, or you look at a leopard or a cheetah or one of these like classic predators. They dominate anyone and everything, right? There's a reason why lions are the king of the jungle, because that's who they are. And it would be ridiculous for us to try and finagle nature so that there was quote unquote more parity in the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom is the animal kingdom. And the lion is always going to stand tall as the king of the jungle. And I feel like in baseball, you're going to have that. You're going to have the teams that just organizationally and just leadership wise, they're always going to be head and shoulders above the other teams, even if the other teams are quote unquote spending the same amount of money as them. So I just throw that out there, not to necessarily say that like one view as the other is right as opposed to wrong. Just as much as like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I think from a fan's perspective, having a salary cap and floor makes sense.
Yeah.
I get where the other side's coming from in terms of like, yeah, but historically baseball hasn't been this. And you look at nature around us and there's not a whole lot of parity.
Well, and I get that. To your point, the Yankees have always been dominant in various eras. In the 1920s, there were 16 teams in Major League Baseball, and nobody has come out as a negative. Like baseball, Rob Manfred's not made it a secret. He wants to see the league expand. He wants one, if not two more teams. The Players Union has not come out and said like, oh, no, we're 100% against that. I don't think you can have it both ways. I'm all about like there's always the strong man, and there's always kind of like there's the feeder and the fed upon or whatever, the eater and the ate. However, you can't have it both ways. You can't keep adding teams, keep diluting the product while at the same time it's like, like how can you sell Montreal or Nashville or Portland or wherever, like fill in the blank with any town. How can you sell them on like, yeah, we want you to have a Major League Baseball team, and by the way, you're going to be the preyed upon. Like you're
going to stink for 3 decades.
Yeah, and it's like that's just not like that's a hard sell. And again, like, and we live in the era. It's not like at a massive rate, but we live in the era where the league has expanded, not contracted. I mean, we've added the Rays, we've added the Arizona Diamondbacks, we've added the Rockies, we've added the Marlins. Like these are teams that are expanding the league, and you're like, and we're finding it out now. Like, look at those. Like, is the league better because the Colorado Rockies are in it? Is the league better because the Tampa Bay Rays are in it? No, they're not. The Tampa Bay Rays, Tropicana Field is the closest we're going to get in America to watching the Korean Baseball League. Like, that stadium is right out of Seoul, Korea, and there's nothing entertaining about it. And it's like, but you just, I don't know. We gotta just have a long look in the mirror as far as like, okay, what I'm a big fan of, like, hey, if you want to keep it as is, the league should probably contract if you want to keep everything equal. But nobody's going to propose that. Nobody's going to give up their franchise, and we're not just going to eradicate. We might move a franchise, but we're not going to get rid of it. And
so here's what they need to do. Here's a proposal. Major League Baseball needs to expand with one of the Savannah Banana League teams. Have a team based out of Savannah, and they're affiliated with the Bananas, and the Savannah Bananas become the minor league affiliate of this professional baseball team.
What about this? Okay, let's take your idea. Let's keep it as is, but if you're in violation of the luxury tax, you get booted to Sacramento and have to play in Sacramento for all your games. You get, and it's like, and then the poorest team in the league, gets like, moved to, Dodger Stadium or Yankee Stadium or whatever. But it's like, if you break the luxury tax, if you're run away, just like whatever, we're just paying the luxury tax, so whatever it is. Yeah, what we're going to do is you have to play all your games in a minor league facility of somebody in your divisions. Like, they get to choose the city you get to go to.
You have to sign and have on your active 30-man roster someone from the UK.
Yeah, right.
Boom. There you go.
Right. No, I just I'm not. I don't know. We'll see what happens. The thing that stresses me out is, like, I feel like everyone's going to be perfectly fine giving up baseball till like August 1st next year. And that's probably what we're looking at, because they know, like, hey, COVID shut the league down till August 1st and they played for 60 days. And yeah. And it's like, that's going to be the end of it. And we're going to end up going, and no one's going to take negotiating seriously till the 4th of July next year. And it just seems like you're going to throw away a lot of momentum that's going on right now with baseball. And that's sad. Now, who knows? Maybe the sides will come to their senses and cooler heads will prevail. But in labor disputes, that doesn't seem likely. But maybe Donald will get involved and the president will negotiate a deal. And based on how everything else is going on in our life right now, if I can use the barometer of, like, if the gas prices right now are any indicator of how negotiating will work, I'm guessing we won't play baseball at all next year. So
Perpetual Strait of Hormuz of baseball, if you will.
Yeah. And so
looking ahead to this weekend, we got Giants Cubs Sunday Night Baseball.
Interesting matchup. Cubs again on Sunday Night Baseball.
Dude. Yeah. You got Mets Padres this weekend. You got Freeway Series, Angels Dodgers, Guardians Rangers, which doesn't interest anybody. You've got Mariners Tigers, rematch of the ALCS or DS? CS.
ALDS.
DS, that's right, because then they lost to the Blue Jays. You got Mariners Tigers.
How is this possible?
Just having swept the Rays.
How is this possible? 3 days in a row, you've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Pirates, Braves, and the pitching matchups all 3 days, TBD, 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 TBD.
Well, life comes at you fast, unfortunately.
This
is the time of year where, things just start becoming a lot more uncertain.
We can talk about this on another podcast, but I think it's in bad faith if you're selling tickets at regular prices or at a premium price and you're like, I get to go and watch 2 bullpen days on that particular day.
Well,
like,
good example of that.
That's the equivalent of load management in the NBA. Like, that's the equivalent of that.
So, good example of that. So today, Christopher Sanchez is starting for the Phillies.
Right.
He's in the midst of a scoreless inning streak.
Absolutely.
And he's pitching today. Like, they've been advertising that.
Yes.
The starters for this weekend against the White Sox, Sunday is TBD, Saturday is TBD, and Friday is TBD. As a matter of fact, the only pitcher they have listed is that Zach Wheeler's pitching tomorrow. And you're like, okay, guys, come on. We know Jesus Luzardo is going to match up. We know Andrew Painter's probably going to start Saturday. Well, why not post that? Like, why charge, like you said, why charge full ticket prices if you don't know who's starting the game and it might just be a bullpen day?
9, 10,
It
11,
almost
12,
seems
13,
like a
14, 15,
league-wide
16,
thing. Like
17, 18, 19, 20, 20. This Sunday, there are 22 unknown pitchers going on Sunday afternoon. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday.
It is.
And Saturday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 unknown pitchers going on Saturday.
Supposedly.
I'm sorry. Like, what are we doing here? What happened? The 5-man rotation became the 2.5-man rotation? Like overnight?
2.5 men in the rotation, if you know what I mean.
That is absolutely insane. No, anyway, well, matchups, it's kind of a convoluted mess here this week. Boston, New York. Obviously, it's interesting. There's not like many like blow your socks off.
How's that convoluted?
Matches. That's a good matchup, but you're like, I don't know. It's just there's nothing that like overly compels me this weekend, unless you're watching
Red
your
Sox,
team.
Yankees.
Yeah, and that used to be a thing like what, when we were children?
Mariners, Tigers?
No, I mean, yeah, because I'm a Tigers fan, but if I'm not a Tigers fan or a Mariners fan, I'm probably not tuning into that.
Let me tell you which one is blowing my socks off. Reds, Cardinals at Busch Stadium.
Dude,
Tarps off.
I was just going to say Reds, Cardinals is probably the matchup of the weekend. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Well, good. At least we can agree on something.
I'm with you there.
And
well, in the meantime, we're going to try to figure out our own labor dispute, you and me.
Well, and apparently us calling out the 9 underperforming players last week did something, because Ronald Acuna has been on fire. Fernando Tatis Jr. finally hit a home run. Jack Flaherty, 5 innings, no earned runs yesterday in his start. So
I have a list of names actually that I would like you to put on your radar to mention on the podcast, because there are
Spencer
some guys,
Torkelson. Spencer Torkelson.
Yeah, Torkelson. That would be fantastic if you could, I don't know, get out of your home run drought.
Give some good vibes only to him.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't mind.
Man. Well, lots of good vibes to our listeners, and enjoy some baseball this week as you drink a Diet Pepsi. And until next week, we're out of here.